The night begins with rain, a sheet of needles slanting through the neon air, thrumming against plastic awnings, drawing silver constellations in puddles where headlights bloom and fade. It is the kind of rain that keeps honest people home and pulls everyone else to the edges, under the bridge sockets, inside late-night laundromats, in the halo of a bus stop light that flickers as if it, too, is trying to breathe. At the bus stop sits a girl in a thin gray hoodie, its hem stringy and damp. She holds the hand of a little boy who keeps blinking like the rain is trying to talk to him. The boy has a cough, not a theatrical cough, but the tight, breathless kind that squeezes for space and wins. His name is Luan. He is 5. He doesn't think he's sick. He thinks the rain stole his breath and forgot to give it back. His sister's name is Ava. She is 14, too young to feel like a mother, too old to pretend that she isn't. The night presses around them. Her jeans cling cold and heavy to her legs. She counts buses without numbers because she has nowhere to go except forward, and forward means a pharmacy that might be open, and a pharmacist who might not look at her like trouble has a face. She checks the slip of paper in her pocket, a prescription written 2 days ago by a clinic doctor with worried eyebrows and a gentle voice that tried not to tremble. Antibiotic, steroid, inhaler, words that look like safety when lined up in ink and like walls when translated into money. The doctor had said, "There's a program, and try the municipal pharmacy, and if they don't have it, there's one on Alvarado that stays open late." The municipal pharmacy said, "Back order," and the clerk didn't meet her eyes. The pharmacy on Alvarado said, "Come back with a parent, then we're out. Then we have the generic. Do you have a card?" They had none of the things that people use to prove things about themselves to other people. No insurance card, no mother's ID, no father, just a prescription, a promise, and the cough of a 5-year-old that keeps getting bigger. When the next bus heaves to the curb, Eva pulls Luan up with it. The bus doors wheeze open like old lungs. They climb the 3 steps as the driver says, "No cash, tap only," and she says, "Please," and she looks like rain made into a girl, and the driver looks at the boy's blue-edged lips and reaches into his jacket and pulls out a card. He taps on the reader that squawks disapproval, and then lights green. Because the driver heard a story once about a boy on a bus and decided he did not want to be the person in the wrong role. They sit near the back where nobody sits except people who want to disappear. The city slides by outside, blurred into watercolor by the wet. Restaurants spill laughter under awnings. A bar door opens and guitars slip into the night and vanish again. A dog shakes itself on a doorstep, outraged by weather as if it were personal. Luan says, "Does rain have a face?" And Ava says, "Tonight it does," and squeezes his hand and invents a smile from pieces she still has left. The pharmacy that said no. The late-night pharmacy hums in a tired way. Fluorescent lights, a refrigerator unit with drinks, aisles lined with careful order like a promise. The bell above the door gives a half-hearted ring when they push in. The warmth hits them. Chemical, clean, indifferent. A woman behind the counter looks up, then down, then up again when she hears Luan's cough. "One moment," she says, and slides the prescription toward her with 2 fingers like it might tell her a joke. Ava steps forward. "We called, earlier. We were told." She stops because the words won't line up, because answering machines are not people, and people only sometimes are. "He's been sick," she says instead. "Please." The doctor wrote, "The pharmacist is not cruel. She isn't warm either. She's the person who has to say no 100 times a night." She looks at the prescription like it is the 100th. "We have the antibiotic," she says. "We're out of that inhaler brand. The generic is..." She names a number that climbs like an elevator, floor by floor. Eva's face empties itself the way faces do when numbers rise and become weather. "Is there..." Eva begins, and stops because other sentences have no end but falling. "Is there a program? We were told..." The pharmacist looks at the boy. She is, after all, human. She says, "There's a charity list, but it needs approval, and it's late." "Please," Eva says. He can't breathe well at night." She doesn't say. There is mold under the peeling wallpaper, and the neighbor downstairs smokes, and our window won't close because the frame is missing a piece, and when he sleeps I watch his chest because I am counting the world. The pharmacist's mouth moves around maybe. Her hand hovers near the keyboard, as if typing could transfigure the hour. "I'm sorry," she says, "because sometimes the truth is a stone with your name on it that you throw anyway. There's a 24-hour place on Harbor, they might—" She doesn't say what might because that would be a lie, and she's used up tonight's allotment of those. The bell rings again. The door opens. He walks in like a man late to his own life. Dark coat, umbrella dripping, tie loosened as though the day has pried its fingers under his collar and tugged. He could be any man. He could be no one. His jaw is the kind that has held words like deliverable and after close and let's be realistic inside it until they bruise. He is not handsome in the way that movies insist on, but he is interesting in the way that confessionals are. He is here for painkillers maybe, or for a toothbrush he doesn't want to share with the woman who will not leave her ear cuff on his nightstand. Or he is here for nothing at all. He is here because the rain wanted him somewhere, and he let it choose. He sees them, the boy with the cough, the girl with the rain-wet hoodie, and something in him leans. He doesn't know this yet. He will tell himself later that he came in for toothpaste and left with gravity. But the real truth wears smaller shoes. He came in empty and saw a shape he recognized. There is a prescription on the counter. There is a word on it that used to be his word. "Excuse me," he says to the pharmacist, because courtesy is his mother's ghost. "Can I?" He gestures to the prescription. "Is there a problem?" The pharmacist is a person who knows the smell of money the way a lifeguard knows the taste of the sea. She hesitates because the rules have fingerprints and she has set off too many alarms to forget their sounds. "They're short on funds," she says, toneless, as if the condition could be solved by math. "We don't have the inhaler brand in stock, we have the generic." She names the number again, the elevator number. It still climbs. He looks at the boy's lips, bluish at the edge now. The room hums on. He touches his coat pocket as if there is a script inside that he could smooth out and read from. There is none. There is only a card shaped like a lifeboat. "Is the generic good?" he asks. "It's—" The pharmacist will not lie. "It's the one we have." He nods. "Add it," he says. "And the antibiotic." His voice is a stone placed on a table. A promise that says, "I will still be here when you look away and back again." The pharmacist stares at him as if he has asked her to hold something she can't lift. Then she nods, brisk, professional again, because this is a transaction and transactions are bridges if you build them right. Her fingers tap the register keys. She names a number that is heavier. He does not flinch. Ava turns to him. "We don't know you," she says, which is the kindest way to say I can't afford to owe this to a stranger. "We can't. We'll pay you back. I promise." He should smile in a certain way here, the way men do when they are saving someone and want the moment to look good from all angles. He does not do that. He looks like a man, trying to pick a lock and hoping it is the door he thinks it is. "My name is Noah," he says. He offers his hand like a bridge. "I'm not a good person. I'm just a person who can pay." "You're not a good person?" Luan says, startled into a smile by the strangeness of it. He coughs when he laughs. It sounds like small glass breaking and mending. Noah huffs. "I am not a bad person," he amends. "I am—" He stops because he has never once been honest with a stranger without wanting something back, and his mouth is not sure how to shape the words. "I am a person who knows what it is like to want the night to be shorter." Ava watches him. She thinks of the men in the building who say too much, and the ones who say too little. This one says exactly as much as he can. That feels like the truth. When the pharmacist brings the bag, a white thing with a stapled mouth that looks like it wants to apologize, Noah puts his card down and says, "Add a nebulizer if you have one." And the pharmacist says, "We don't sell those, because this isn't a hospital," and he says, "The spacer for the inhaler then," because he is a man who knows some words. And the pharmacist nods and reaches under the counter and brings out a plastic tube with magic in it. "Thank you," Eva says. The words are ancient. They taste like chalk and honey. She stops herself. "I'll write it down." She pulls a pen from somewhere, writes her name and a number on the back of an old bus pass. The ink runs a little because everything is wet tonight. "I promise," she says. And it is not just about money. It is about a line that connects 2 points and makes them both less alone. Noah does not look at the paper as if it is a receipt for something he is trying to deduct. He tucks it into his wallet like a pressed leaf. "Do you live near?" he asks. And then, because men asking young women where they live is an old story that does not need a new chapter, he adds quickly, "I don't need to know. There's a taxi out front. I can call one for you. You shouldn't walk in this rain." "We can take the bus," Eva says, automatic, because taxis are stories about other people. "You could," Noah says, "or you could let me do one more thing because I have suddenly remembered that sometimes I am allowed." She squints at him through the blur of her hair. His face does not say danger. It says exhausted. It says if you drew the lines of his day on a map, they would circle and circle the same few blocks until you got dizzy. It says maybe. He opens the umbrella like a stage curtain. The bell above the pharmacy door mutters something and gives up. The rain is fatter now. It lands on their shoulders and clings. The street glitters like a rumor. He signals a cab with 2 fingers as if he is asking it a question. It pulls over because it is the kind of night where cars behave. He opens the back door, stands aside like a door himself. "I can be the person who closes the umbrella," he offers. It is, in its way, a small and perfect sentence. She hesitates long enough to consider the version of the world where people do not matter, and then she chooses the other one. They climb in. The man with the umbrella. In the cab's wet-lit interior, Luan curls into the corner and falls asleep like someone pulled a string and let him wind down. The bag of medicine lives in Eva's lap, like a small animal she must keep warm. Noah sits in the front because it seems less like temptation that way. The driver says, "Where?" and Noah says nothing because he looks at Eva and waits. She gives the address in a way people do when they are defending something. When the building comes into view, it is the kind that was a rumor of a better life once. The entryway light has a crack in it that makes the night bend slightly as you walk under it. The stairwell smells like cleaning solution and old shoes. The elevator is the kind that makes you memorize the number for the fire department. Noah pays because he cannot think what else to do with his hands. He gets out with them because he is not going to say goodbye to a cab window. "Thank you," Eva says again at the doorway. She shifts the bag and Luan as if both weigh the same and both are hers to carry. "Will, text me if you..." He stops. He cannot say if you need anything because the world has taught him not to promise too much. "Text me if you want me to check if another pharmacy has something next time," he says instead. It is a ridiculous sentence that means I have decided to remember your name. She nods. Okay. She is not the kind of girl who says okay to everything. She says it now because the night feels different when someone says, "I will stand here until your door closes, and then I will stand a little longer." He watches them disappear into the stairwell. He is not a saint. He is a man with a jacket that is too expensive for the place he is standing and a job that thinks it owns his morning. He goes home, and it turns out home is mostly a couch and a glass that hasn't left the drying rack in 3 weeks because visitors are a future he keeps moving the date on. In the morning, the building across from his sings with laundry and the smell of coffee and somebody fighting cheerfully with a dog who just wants to make the day bigger. Noah showers the way people do when they are trying to wash off a version of themselves. The mirror says only what mirrors say. If you stand there, I will show you something and promise nothing. He dresses like people who need their clothes to do some of the work of being human. His kitchen contains coffee pods and the stubborn belief that he will learn to cook next month. His phone buzzes a few minutes after he decides to leave it upstairs. He goes back for it like a man who remembered the thing he meant to say years ago. "Ava, the spacer works. He slept. Thank you. We will pay you back." He types and deletes 6 replies and ends with, "I'm glad. That's all." He adds a period so it doesn't look like an I. Open wound. Breakfast, backstories, and boundaries. Noah commissions a good deed hangover around lunchtime. The feeling is familiar from 1,000 charity galas that tasted like shrimp and guilt. He puts his head down and plows through emails. A colleague with sharp voice notes leaves him a message about optics and urgency, and massage the numbers so they look less like themselves. Noah stares at the screen until the numbers blur into little boats. At 4, he gives up pretending and walks. The city gives him 1,000 chances to be someone else and he chooses none. He finds himself outside a bakery that smells like the true religion people who need dough understand. Inside, a woman behind the counter says, "The rain kept most inside." And he says, "I am not most." And they both smile at the choreography of it. He buys too much on purpose. A loaf, 2 croissants, something that glows like apricot under a lacquer of sugar. The bag swings from his hand like a dare. The apartment building lets him in because yesterday he made a shape the door recognized. He climbs the stairs because the elevator is arguing with gravity. He knocks in a way that says, "I will accept whatever the door decides." Footsteps. A pause that is long enough to include a conversation on the other side. The door opens 3 inches, then 4, then the size of a welcome. Eva's hoodie has dried and now looks like the idea of a hoodie. Her hair is pulled back in a way that keeps asking to fall out. There are shadows under her eyes that did not move out overnight because they don't know where else to live. Luan peeks from behind her like a coin in a magician's palm. "Hi," she says, neutral, polite, cautious, as befits a person whose life has included too many people who want to be a paragraph in her story. He slept. "The medicine? Thank you. I brought bread," Noah says, "because there are things that tie the world together, and flour is one. And..." He holds up the apricot glow like a lantern. "Something sweet." Luan stages a diplomatic incident by clapping his hands and then coughing immediately. He looks embarrassed that his lungs did that without permission. Noah holds the bag like an offering to a small king and says, "Permission to enter with pastry?" Ava hesitates long enough to teach the moment that she is not careless. Then she steps aside. The apartment is a held-together thing. The wallpaper is not lying well. The floor knows where each footstep likes to go. A lamp in the corner throws a yellow circle like a fire on a beach at night, and suddenly the place looks less like a room and more like an undercover sanctuary. Someone put a blanket over the window to coax it into being warm. On the table is a sheet of paper with math on it. In one corner are numbers that look like they were trying to be brave and ended up being honest. "Mom used to bake when the oven worked," Eva says, unprompted, which is how truth sometimes arrives. "We haven't had, well, thank you." Noah does not ask where the mother is. He has learned at least that much. He says, "Shall we be criminals and cut this croissant incorrectly?" and rips it with his hands and gets flakes on his sleeve and feels more like a person and less like an email than he has in months. He brings out the apricot tart last. Luan, who has eaten cereal that tasted like scratch marks and an apple that wore bruise like a badge and very little else all day, takes a bite and looks betrayed by joy. "It's happy," he says, astonished. "It tastes like happy." Noah laughs. "Someone tell the marketing department," he says. They eat and do not pretend it is not sacred. The yellow lamp is a small sun. The rain resumes its rosary on the window. Noah leans back in the chair and asks the kind of question you ask when you have decided to be careful. "May I know where you go to school?" he says to Eva. The way he says "may" is an old-world courtesy, and also an apology for all the times May was taken from her. "I used to go to, Westwood Middle," she says. "We moved, She wets her lips. "I haven't been back since last month." "Last month is this month," Luan says. He is 5. Time is a deck of cards that someone keeps shuffling. Eva shrugs. "It's hard," she says. "You can't leave a 5-year-old alone. And if I take him, the attendance lady looks at me and I can hear the sentences she isn't saying." Noah nods too slowly because there is too much to hold and he has only the 2 of them. "You're not alone," he says. "It is not a promise. It is an offering. It is a map that shows there is at least one more icon on it now. You don't..." She starts, and then stops. She is used to paying for the idea of help with pieces of herself. "Why are you..." She circles her hands to indicate bread that is not from this zip code, a coat that owns more than one city, an umbrella whose ribs haven't rusted. He almost gives her an answer he has given 1,000 times. He almost says something about his mother and church and 10%. Then he gives her the truth because she asked for it so gently it would be a crime to lie on it. "I am very good at building," he says. "But all the buildings belong to other people. I am very good at arguments, but they don't keep anyone warm. I haven't been very good at being a person." He glances at Luan, whose head has found the crook of his sister's arm. "Last night felt like God, and I don't even know if I believe in that God." Pointed at me and said, "You get to be a person now." Ava watches him say that. The words sit in the air between them like a loaf they could share or leave untouched. She nods once. "Okay," she says, and for once, okay means both acceptance and authority. The room with the yellow lamp. 2 weeks make art of routine. The pharmacy bag empties and then fills again and then empties slower. The spacer becomes less frightening. Luan learns its rhythm and his breath follows. The cough loses its edge. It retreats to a small sound that visits at night and leaves quietly. The yellow lamp becomes a witness in the corner, a sun that rises every time they plug it in. Noah comes by in a way that is careful. He texts first. He brings bread or milk or fruit because he has learned there are groceries you buy when money is an abstract and groceries you buy when it is not, and these are not the same list. He sets things down on the counter and then steps back like he has entered a room where someone is sleeping and will call the police if he moves too much. He never stays more than an hour unless he is invited to do so. He is careful with pronouns. He does not say we when he means I. He is a man who used to have many keys, and none of them opened a door without a doorman. Now he carries one cheap brass key on a loop. For a storage unit he rented 2 miles from their building where he stashed a twin mattress he bought, and a box of clothes someone's company donated, and he laundered personally because he wanted the smell of detergent to be actual, not conceptual. It is Eva who says, "Hey, can you watch him Thursday afternoon? I have to go to the school to sign something and they say he has to be with a parent, which I am apparently not." And he says, "Yes," with such relief in the syllable that she looks at him in surprise and then softens the way days do when the light changes. Thursday is their first afternoon without her. Noah arrives early because men who fear failure show up before it is possible. He brings a puzzle with a picture of a sea turtle that looks entirely too earnest about the ocean, and plastic dinosaurs that were favorites in a previous lifetime, belonging to someone else's child. Luan accepts the puzzle with solemn ceremony and informs Noah that the Stegosaurus is a vegetarian, which is important because vegetarians can live in our kitchen and won't eat our chair. Noah swallows laughter like a pill because he was taught not to laugh at the way anyone holds the world together. He nods as if this is a meeting and the minutes will reflect it. They assemble the turtle and it feels like a metaphor. Rain stops arguing outside and turns to listening. The kettle on the stove makes a noise like gossip. Noah learns that Luan's favorite park is not a park, but the patch of grass behind the laundromat. He learns that Eva hums when she is doing math. He learns that the neighbor upstairs sweeps at 2 in the morning, and that this building considers that to be music. When Eva returns, cheeks flushed from a wind that thinks it is the law, Noah is reading a book in a voice that is too solemn for a story about a dog who wanted a coat. His feet are on the floor because this room has taught him to be smaller than his height. She stands in the doorway and watches for a moment. The scene plays across her face like a projection. Possibility, suspicion, almost smile, fear, decision. "Thanks," she says. It is a small word, but it lands with both feet. They want a parent's signature next week too. She says it as if she might be teasing him into a corner. "Okay," he says. And then, because clarity is a kindness, he adds, "I'm here. I will be here." Bridges and birth certificates. Every story with a child in it has paperwork like an undertow. It looks flat. It is not. It reaches for your ankles and tries to take you down. Noah learns this when the school secretary tilts her head politely and says, "We appreciate your involvement, Mr." He realizes she doesn't know his last name, and he suddenly wants to keep it because last names in rooms like this introduce privileges that muddy the water. "Noah," he says, and she nods as if that is enough. "But for legal purposes, we need a guardian of record," he says. "Her mother," and stops because he has run into the man inside him who is very good at contracts and very bad at questions. He looks at Eva. She half sits, half stands. She is not sure which person to be. She produces a stack of folded papers from her backpack like rabbits from a conjurer's hat, the clinic note with the doctor's name stamped at the bottom, the building manager's curt letter acknowledging they occupy a space for which rent is sometimes late but paid, a report card that belongs to a year that feels like a decade. The secretary has eyes that have seen many versions of this performance. She is not unkind, but she is tired. Tired of the gap between rules and children, and the chasm everyone keeps pretending is a coin slot. "If you can bring in a parent," she says, "or a letter." "My mother is," Eva begins. Her tongue trips on a word like she stubbed it on a step. "She's not here. She will be. She's dealing with things." The secretary's mouth softens in a way people's mouths do when they are holding the wrong kind of knowledge. "I see," she says. And partly she does because this is not the first family that has stolen the nouns to make space for themselves. After, on the sidewalk where the cold is licit and the rules feel less heavy, Noah says, "What if we made this official?" And Ava's spine stiffens like a fence. "No," she says immediately. "No, you don't." She gestures to the building, to Luan, to the yellow lamp that makes their apartment glow like something that knows their names. "We don't need you to change things. I meant..." He stops. He tries again. There is a way to be a bridge without being a bulldozer. He is clumsy, but he is trying to tell her that he does not need his name on a plaque to stand between her and wind. A week later, he meets a woman in a public office that smells like paper that has seen some things. The woman's badge says social work in a font that is trying to be brave. She takes down names, dates, the colors of certain afternoons they don't talk about. She asks gently where the mother is. Ava says, "Not here." And the woman says, "Okay," in a tone that means I will not dig with a shovel where your heart is the ground. Noah says, "I can," and the woman lifts a hand the way orchestral conductors do when someone plays too loudly. "Let's keep everything gentle," she says. "You can be emergency contact. You can be authorized pickup. We can do this one piece at a time." At home, Luan does his own paperwork. He draws a house with a window and a yellow sun that looks suspiciously like their lamp. He draws 3 stick figures, one big, one medium, one small. The small one has an inhaler drawn like a squiggle in its hand. He labels the big one EVA, even though she is medium, and the medium one Noe, because he has not met many letters yet and they square their shoulders when he does. Noah looks at it, and the drawing feels like a document stamped with an authority nobody argued with. He dabs at the corner of his eye with the back of his wrist, because men who cry in front of children should also be the men who do the dishes. Trial by guardianship. All stories with kindness in them are tested. The test is not necessarily the bad guy. Sometimes it is bureaucracy. Sometimes it is the past. Sometimes it is a door that opens in the middle of the night, and someone familiar steps through wearing a face you haven't seen for a long time. The test arrives on a Tuesday when work is louder than usual, which is to say, it is shouting. Noah's phone buzzes with a number that promises to ruin an hour, then with a number that could ruin a week. He ignores both because he has decided it is time we stopped giving hours to people who have plenty already. He goes to the apartment after, and the hallway smells like fried onions and old carpet and the kind of chemistry that tells you love lives here, because the walls have held it when it threw glasses and then hugged the shards. Ava is in the doorway before he knocks. Her hair is a situation. It floats. Her eyes are bright with "I should not have asked, but I did." "She's here," she says. It is the mother, Maya. She stands in the room like a string pulled too taut across a violin. Notes jump at unexpected times. She is beautiful in the way. Abandoned storefronts are beautiful when vines forgive them. Her eyes are the same shape as Eva's, but older, because they remember births and hospital ceilings, and the way men say later and mean never. Her left hand twitches sometimes when she thinks nobody is watching. "Maya," Noah says, because he knows when to use a person's name like a pillow under a fall. "I'm Noah." She nods. A small movement that looks like surrender if you aren't careful, and looks like survival if you are. "You've been helping," she says. She tries to decide which noun to pick. Ashamed, grateful, wary. "Thank you," she says, and the room gets bigger, just a little, to make space for that word. They sit with their backs not against the wall, but near it, so that if anyone needs to lean, they can. Luan crawls into his mother's lap in a way that says my house has shifted, and I will not be the one to decide if it is permanent. Maya's hand finds his hair, and then doesn't know what to do with that much. Softness. She keeps petting him like he might break or the night might. "I'm getting help," she says finally. She looks at her hands when she says it, like she's telling an old story to new ears. There's a woman. There's meetings. My head feels like a radio that someone finally found the station for. Sometimes it goes fuzzy and then it comes back. Noah nods. Recovery is not a straight line. It's more like he moves his hand in the air in a wave, a river that remembers where it is going. She looks at him, and for a split second her mouth curves because metaphors are candy for people who don't own orchards. Eva watches the exchange with a cynicism that is not new and not undeserved. She says, "We're okay," and means, "I have been holding up a ceiling and I cannot put it down to clap for you right now, but I want to." She says, "We're finishing the term, then we'll see." Maya nods again. This one is not surrender. It is agreement. It is maybe the first adult thing to happen in this room in a year. Outside, the hallway swallows noise. Inside, paperwork arrives again dressed as a human. A case manager with soft shoes and a pen that writes blacker than most. She says words like guardianship and interim and uncomplicated, like they are pieces you can move around on a chessboard. They are not. They are river rocks you must cross in a room where the floor is pretend. The case manager says, "We can formalize what is working. Emergency contact, school permissions, medical consent, nothing that takes something from you. Something that gives the right person the pen when the paper arrives." Noah waits until the moment in a sentence when we can become I. "Give me what you need," he says. "I'll bring it back with the corners unbent." Maya says thank you, and this time the word is a rope thrown across a gap. Noah grabs hold of it like it is the only thing keeping him from going under. When the storm returns, tests, like seasons, return even after you thought you'd moved far enough north. The storm comes back on a Wednesday that begins bright enough to teach you not to trust mornings. The sky lowers its face over the city by noon. By 3, the rain is choosing favorites. By 6, the building's hallway is a series of small ships and each door a captain trying to keep water out with towels that wish they were walls. Noah is stuck, not in traffic, in a room with glass walls and a table that thinks it is a planet and 6 people with haircuts that cost more than bread. He is listening to a man use "we" for an idea that will sharpen its teeth on people with less furniture. Noah looks down at the document and sees numbers like a coastline that will lose a house every year if we do this. He tries to speak and his mouth is tied. He thinks of the yellow lamp, of a boy who once said the tart tasted like happy, of a girl who learned how to stand between someone and the world without asking permission. He stands. He says, "I can't," and the room looks at him as if he has confessed to being human in a place where the posted rules forbid it. When he gets outside, rain slaps him like a mother who loves too hard. His phone buzzes, and the caller ID says the building's manager. He answers because the world is small when it wants to be, and now is one of those times. "Pipe burst," the manager says, in a tone that could also mean the sun fell or I lost the instructions. "4th floor. It's..." "Listen." He holds the phone out, and Noah hears it. A sound like static, like a river in a throat, like a hallway filled with the sea. He runs. He is not a running man by habit. He becomes one, because the universe looks for that in the fine print. He splashes through the lobby, takes the stairs 2 at a time, slides on the 3rd landing like he is in a movie where he will live, grabs the railing and uses the swing to kick his way back to running again. When he reaches the right floor, he sees it. Water, in places it should not be. The sound of it is a chorus that does not plan to end. People are in the hallway with buckets and broomsticks like an ancient army. The manager points. Noah doesn't need directions. He knows the door that has the little picture Luan drew taped crooked on it. The house with the window, the yellow lamp, the 3 stick figures. He knocks. The door opens like a heart that learned to survive. Eva stands there, soaked from the waist down, hair braided with rain, eyes bright with fight. Luan is on the couch with the inhaler placed beside him like a knight in a bedtime story. Maya stands in the kitchen with a towel around her shoulders like a cape, a mop in one hand like a scepter she earned. "We're okay," Eva says before he can form the question. Breastbone out like a shield. "We got the towels down. The bathroom's a monsoon. Kitchen's a floodplain. It's fine." Noah thinks of the textbooks he knows and realizes none of them taught him what to do when a sink line breaks the way a promise does. "Okay," he says, and this time okay is a verb. He takes off his jacket and throws it on the chair and takes another towel and reads the floor like a problem and starts solving the parts he knows how to solve. Block the path here, form a dam there, tilt the fan toward the right. The building manager says, "We have to shut the water," and he does. The building groans like a beast who knows it will not drink tonight. The neighbors are a chorus. It's always the pipes, and I told them, and my carpet, and children live here, and not again. It is a theater where everyone gets to play their favorite role when the script is short on grace. At some point, the fix arrives. Two men with belts that have tools with names like verbs. They wrench and twist and help the building remember what it is supposed to do. The rain outside keeps at it, but less like a threat now, more like background. When the noise has settled into quiet, and the towels have finished their first lives and are strung like flags, across the chairs, and Luan is watching them the way a boy watches boats in a harbor. Noah goes to the window and looks at the building across the street, where another yellow rectangle glows in another window, and he thinks there are people there who believe in saints and they might be right, but also there are strangers with umbrellas. Maya stands next to him without asking if she can, because the window belongs to anyone who can see. "You saved us," she says, and he shakes his head. "You saved?" "You," he says. "I held towels." She laughs, and it sounds like something breaking that needed to break to become a bell. "If you want to save me," she says, "bring me coffee in the morning when he wakes coughing. That's the hour that breaks me." "Okay," he says. He will bring coffee. He will bring his jacket. He will bring that look people have when they stand in the doorway and tell you by their posture that the day is not allowed to win. The orchard, and the letter winter, leans its shoulder into the city, and the city leans back and neither gives an inch. The yellow lamp becomes the sun because the actual one takes too many holidays in these months. School becomes habit again. The inhaler becomes less a miracle and more like a toothbrush. You're grateful it exists, and you hate it just a little. Luan becomes a connoisseur of dinosaurs and a scholar of cartoons that teach siblings to forgive. He can now do his own spacer in a way that is both proud and terrifying. He tells everyone, "I am a scientist," as he paints water over construction paper and watches the color run and cries sometimes because he doesn't want the red to go into the blue, and then laughs because it turns purple. Ava becomes something both harder and more beautiful. A student again, a girl again, one who can leave her brother with the man who used to be a stranger and go meet a girl from chemistry to study, and then not study, and then talk about boys, and then say, "Actually, I don't want to talk about boys." And they end up talking about the teacher's shoes and the algebra that keeps changing its mind, and whether or not 7 is really lucky, because both of them used to be 7 once, and it was not. Noah becomes two things: a day job and a life. In the day job, he says no more and yes less, and finds that both words taste like freedom if you chew them well. He says, "What if we built the thing we promised and not the thing the investor wants to brag about on a golf course?" And people look at him like he should be fired, and then realize he actually owns some of this and decide to promote him instead. He takes his promotion and spends it on time. In the life, he learns to remember birthdays. He makes friends with the janitor in Eva's school because for the first time in his life, he wants to know the name of the person who will call him if the lights go out there. He starts jogging because he needs his breath to do more than one thing: answer and last. He buys a second yellow lamp because one isn't enough for love. And then there is the orchard. It happens because all stored-up kindness has to have a place to land, and sometimes it lands on a Saturday morning when the sky gives more than it takes. A flyer on the building's board says Community Farm Day, help prune, learn to graft, free donuts, sponsored by everyone who thinks they still owe the earth something. Noah says, "We should," and Eva says, "We have," and he says, "I can watch him while you," and she says, "We could both." Goes like someone discovered an equation that works. Maya says, "I have a meeting at 9, and he says, "We can do 11 and then pick you up," and you can say, and worries he is pushing and says, "Or not," and she says, "Donuts," and that is the plan. The orchard is an hour away and a world. The city loosens its tie as they drive. The sky considers being kind. The farm smells like stories. A woman in a hat with more personality than most podcasts says, "Welcome," and hands Luan a pair of tiny gloves that nearly make him pass out from the responsibility. "We're going to teach the apple trees to grow kindly," she says. "They listen better if you talk to them in little kid voices. They prune." Noah learns that cutting can be tenderness if you do it in service of fruit. Ava learns that everything is grafted from someone else's strong wood. Luan learns that worms are okay if you name them. "This is Harold," he says, and the woman says, "Of course it is," and introduces him to a beetle called Francine. At noon, they sit on crates and eat donuts that taste like they were invented for this exact moment and killed immediately after so they can't be stolen by marketing. Maya arrives from her meeting in clothes that are not for farms and instantly does not care. She takes off her shoes because the ground is telling her a story. She accepts a donut that immediately steals flour from itself and donates it to her face in an act of generosity. They are a picture, a boy with a sticky smile, a girl whose shoulders have put down an inch, a woman who remembers what her toes were for, a man who keeps thinking he dreamed this, and then touches the crate and knows it is wood and is here. Noah says, "I almost didn't come," and Maya says, "Me too," and Eva says, "I still might leave," and they all laugh and do not. On the drive home, Luan falls asleep with his head in the geography of a lap. Maya watches the highway unspool and thinks about the time she had to pull out a cactus spine from her own heel and didn't cry because Eva was watching. She thinks about meetings where chairs don't let you lean and the coffee is styrofoam, and still there is a miracle where a woman says, "I messed up," and another woman says, "Okay," like baptism. She says finally, "Thank you," and nobody says for what, because they all know. 2 days later, a letter arrives. It is not, as you might hope, a letter written by a tree. It is from a lawyer. It is written in the language of laws. It says, "The words notice and petition and proposed and hearing date and guardianship, and this is how we make tenderness official. It is from the state. It is in service of good. It is also terrifying because the words are big and the heart is small." Noah reads it. Maya reads it. Eva does not want to read it but does. Luan uses it as a runway for a toy car and then puts it down carefully because even he, who is 5, can tell it is made of secrets. The letter says, "Come prove you are a family." They do not know exactly how to do that. They go anyway. A promise kept. The hearing room is beige in the way that hospitals are decolorized by purpose. The judge is younger than any of them expected and older than the news would let you believe. She has a tired gentleness that suggests she has sat at many tables where love and paper tried to understand each other. The state's lawyer says the words that must be said, that this is a petition for guardianship, so that the child may receive medical care when needed and attend school without question, and that this is not a termination, that this is a tether, not scissors. The social worker says kindness with her face. Noah says his name and does not say his last because it is not about that. He says, "I am not trying to be their story. I am trying to be a page where the words don't fall off the edge." The judge smiles a millimeter, because most metaphors in rooms like this are bad, and this one is less so. Eva says, "He didn't save us." And the judge's eyebrows rise because this is not the way these speeches usually begin. "He held the umbrella and we walked," Eva continues. "He didn't try to take the street, he just stayed." Her voice breaks only once, and then remembers itself. "I have always had to be older than I was. He made it okay for me to be exactly as old as I am." Maya says, "I am working on staying, and sometimes that is not enough, but sometimes it is the only thing that counts." She says, "I am learning to use help like a ladder, and not like a bed," and the judge has to look away for a second because that is better than most sermons. Luan says, "I can use the spacer by myself." The courtroom laughs because sometimes the only thing left to do is let the body make the joy noises. The judge says, "That might be the best evidence we'll hear all day," and the court reporter smiles into her stenography like a woman who wants to write apples instead of appeals. The judge signs. The paper gets a new name scribbled on it. The world does not change in any audible way, but the edges stop frightening them. Outside, the sun pretends it is a lamp. Noah looks at his phone and thinks of all the meetings he didn't go to while this was happening. He thinks about what didn't happen because he was here, and realizes the only people who will miss him are the people in that room if he leaves it. He says out loud, "To nobody and everybody, I am here," and it feels like a vow. Time does what it always does if you keep feeding it. It passes and it leaves traces. Luan turns 6. Small teeth leave and come back with interest. The inhaler stays in the drawer more than on the table. Eva turns 15 and is startled by how much she likes physics because someone had the generosity to show her that strength is only balance with more homework. Maya gets a chip, then 2, then 5, and then stops counting because numbers aren't the point. Mornings become less terrifying. Coffee tastes less like defeat. Noah learns to cook. Exactly 4 meals he is proud of and buys a smoke alarm that takes compliments badly. He learns to say no to men on golf courses without apologizing. He learns to love a yellow lamp because when it is on, everybody is home. On a night close to the margin between years when people make lists to protect themselves from the future, he stands in the little kitchen of their apartment, which feels like a house now, as utterly as the orchard felt like church. The window is open, and the city breathes. With them, a living creature with lights for lungs. He holds a glass of something that tastes like apples if you're kind. Ava sits at the table, leaves smudges on a page as she sketches the lamp and the way its light turns the air visible. Luan is asleep on the couch, one foot hanging over the edge as if he doesn't believe in endings. Maya leans in the doorway and looks at the 3 of them as if they are a horizon. "Tell me again," she says quietly, "about the first night." He does. He tells it. Badly, the way people do when they are trying not to make themselves the hero. He says, "I brought bread," and she says, "You brought yourself." And he looks at his hands, because sometimes it is too much to look at the person who says the right thing. Eva puts down her pencil, rubs the eraser shavings into a little pile, and flicks them. "People always think the big moments are the ones that matter," she says. "The hearing, the night with the rain, but the moments when nothing happens, the afternoons, those are the ones that saved us. Like when he learned to use the spacer by himself," Maya says. "Like when you showed up with coffee," Eva says. "Like when you yelled at the pipe with your eyes and it got scared," Noah says. And she laughs, the bell sound again, and says, "Like that. The year turns. It will bring storms, because that is what years do. It will bring letters and papers, and somebody upstairs will sweep at 2 in the morning again, and they will all groan and then smile because routine is a kind of grace. It will bring an orchard and worms named Harold, and the day Luan brings home a drawing of a house with 4 stick figures and the yellow lamp and the sun, which is also a lamp, and he has learned to spell Noah with an H, and he has learned to draw hands on people. On a different night in a different rain, someone else will stand under a bus stop light and hold a small hand and try to make a promise they can keep. If they are lucky, a man with a tired tie will walk into a pharmacy, and if the world is luckier, the woman behind the counter will look up and say, "Let me see what I can do." And the night will shape itself around them like a room with a yellow lamp in the corner, waiting to be plugged in. And when someone asks years later, "How did you become a family?" they will not say paperwork, though there was plenty. They will not say destiny, though it is tempting. They will say, "We found each other in the rain, and then we stayed when it stopped." They will say, "We kept our promise."